It's Jason here. I'm going to give everybody a second to get on. So I'm going to give people a second to get on, and then we will start drawing. So while you guys are joining, if you want to grab a sketchbook, grab a pencil, an eraser. I will be using, let's see what you use, some markers. You guys can use whatever you have at home. If for the kids, which I'm hoping lots of kids are on, you can use anything you have. Crayons, markers. Thanks, Stacy. I figured I would dress the part today. Crayons, markers, colored pencils, whatever you have at home, we are just going to draw. So yeah, we're gonna go over some terms, and we're gonna draw some fun stuff. We're gonna draw, how do I turn these sounds off? We are going to be drawing some monsters. I draw all sorts of monsters and kids illustrations in addition to my kind of wacky other drawings, but I do all sorts of different monsters. Some of the monsters are just normal little monsters, and then I also have done some monsters that, you know, as we're getting creating, I have some monsters that do things that are, you know, the naughty things. Like this monster is the monster that hits reply all instead of reply. Or this is the sock monster that takes that sock out of your wash and eats it. Or just some cute little monsters, or especially now, we all need a little love monster. Little nerdy monsters. Oop, that one's upside down. So here's what we're going to start with. A couple terms that we're going to use, and then we'll get drawing. So our first one is texture. Texture, very simply, is how something feels or looks like it feels. So it could be, I gotta get used to going backwards. It could be furry, it could be scaly, it could be sharp and jagged, or it could be bumpy. Or it could be some animal textures like turtle shell, or it could be like scales or like rough skin from like a rhino or an elephant. So we're going to be using lots of texture. And then another term that I use a lot, these are both elements and principles of art. So these are things that kids at home, your art teacher should be teaching you, and you guys should know what these are. Another one is pattern, though. So pattern is very simply something that repeats over and over again. So it could be with a lot of different things. So it could be pattern with just lines, you know, a stripe or a shape. Pattern can also be with color. So it could be in addition to a line, but it could be orange, blue, orange, blue, orange, blue. It could be, you know, a green, orange, orange circle. But patterns can also be other kinds of shapes. There's lots of different ways to make patterns, just as long as it's something that repeats over and over again. So let's get started. So the very simplest way to start drawing is to start with some simple shapes. And I'm going to ask for some comments to help me make a drawing of a monster. So the first thing I want to start with, if someone wants to comment, and the first comment that I get, I'll start with, is we want to start with a body shape. So if somebody wants to comment and start with a body shape, kids watching, you guys can do any body shape, but I'm just going to show you how we can start with a shape and go from there. So anybody? All right, a fat body. So we're going to start with a very light pencil drawing. Oh, I like this, a fat body and a pear. Those are two things. Those are good. And I see a lot of other shapes, and we'll use lots of other shapes too. So I draw very, very light. And I always tell my students to draw light until you get it right. It's really hard to erase when you draw really dark. So draw very light. So I'm going to draw and I'm holding my pencil at the end, and that helps me draw very light. If I hold it like this, I have the tendency to draw very dark because I'm pressing really hard. So you want to draw light, which just is helpful with drawing light. So I got my pear shape, which is kind of fat. I'm actually going to make them a little fatter. And if I draw light, it lets me make any changes or mistakes very easy. So I have my body now. Now let's think. We want to, any monster, the cool thing about monsters is that they don't have to have anything in particular. Like a normal face, we think we have, we have our eyes, our ears, our mouth, our nose, our hair, or whatnot. The cool thing about monsters is that we can have them be whatever your imagination comes up with. So I'm going to continue with our interactive live. Throw me out a number for number of eyes we want to have. And hello, everybody, while I wait for a number of eyes. I'm just going to darken some of my lines. Oh, of course you would, Brian. 4 eyes. All right. So I'm going to start, and eyes, I'm going to start with a simple shape of a circle. And whenever you're drawing, the easiest thing to start with is just your simple shapes. You can go back and add details later, but simple shapes, most people and most kids, I always have people say, I don't know how to draw, I can't draw. You can draw simple shapes. Most people can draw a square, most people can draw a circle or a triangle, and that's how we're going to start these drawings. So I have 4 circles. Okay, and again, if kids, you're following along, yours does not have to look like mine. Let it come from your imagination. Now, we can do a mouth. Let's think of a mouth. Do we want it to have teeth? Do we want it to have a tongue? Do we want it to have big sharp fangs? Or do we want it to have a big smiley teeth? Or as I wait for some suggestions on that, I'm going to put the pupils in my eyes. And I'm having some fun with my eyes and that they're all kind of looking at each other. And again, this is just circles inside of circles. Ooh, vampire fangs. I like that. Okay, so I'm going to draw a mouth. And a mouth, a very simple mouth to draw, is just a half circle, or like a half moon. So there we go. And I'm going to draw some nice, and here's another easy way to think of fangs. Teeth are basically, especially vampire fangs, are just triangles. And maybe they're a little curved, so I'm going to draw some curved fangs. And if you want to have a lot of teeth or just a few teeth, and I sometimes, as I'm drawing, I go back, like you can see a lot of my very sketchy lines. I go back and erase before I So now I got my fangs. I'm going to add a little bit of a lip. And a lip is basically just a little bit more of a thicker spot around your mouth. So if you can trace that line just a little bit further out, you have a lip. Now I'm going to see how I can connect my... Oh, hi, Mason. Mason is one of my lovely students. Miss you guys. Now, off the top of my head, I want to connect my body to my eyes. So you can very simply start with just some rectangles. 2 lines. They can be like I just drew that one, but as I'm doing it, I think I want these to be a little bit wackier. So I'm going to have kind of a curved line. And maybe this one will come down quite a bit. So they're almost like Medusa-esque. And this is why I say draw light until you get it right. And especially since I have my students watching, they will know that we always say that. So now I have some eyes with some crazy tentacles. All right, so now let's think feet. Some feet. Do we want, and here's where your imagination really can take over. Do you want to just have normal feet and have 2 feet? Do you want to have feet with toes? Do you want to have feet with claws? Do you want to have feet with tentacles? Do you want to have 3 feet? Do you want to have 8 tentacles? Do you want... So wherever you want to take your monster, and again, I hope you're making your monster look what you want your monster to look like. Triangle feet. Well, we're going to start with, we'll do that. So we're going to start with just some triangles to start off. And we're actually going to make some big kind of like bear feet out of them. So I have my basic shapes. You know what we're going to do? We're going to do the triangle feet with some octopus tentacles off of it. We'll do that. So and here's the thing about, I was teaching my 2nd and 3rd graders the term organic shapes. Organic shape, actually, I have some on my page. So A geometric shape is a shape we use in math. So like circles and triangles, those are our math shapes. They have names. But an organic shape is a shape like this. Oh, trying to do this backwards. So these shapes are called organic shapes because they don't have names. They might look like something, but they're kind of wavy or organic. So I'm going to make my triangle feet, and I'm going to add some tentacles to the bottom of them. And this is now where you want to make sure that you are drawing lightly, because then I can go back and erase any of those lines that I may have need to erase to be able to color over. And I'm going to actually connect, make a little bit more of a connection to my body. So I like that we started with the triangle feet and then added things, so you can see how just starting with a simple shape, you can build. I need to get my paintbrush. Here's a very funky little trick. If you ever want to just not, because sometimes if you use your hand, it can make the pencil smear. So get a paintbrush or something, and then you can brush off all of your eraser parts. So I have tentacle feet, I have vampire fangs, I have 4 eyes, a nose, now a nose. We could have like a lizard nose, we could have a clown nose, we could have all sorts of funky things. So what do we feel like? What do we feel like? Come on, y'all. And as I'm waiting for that, be thinking, kids, about what you want to use as your patterns, because we're going to need to have some patterns. And I have some examples here, but as we're waiting for a nose idea, you know, patterns can be polka dots. Or patterns can be hearts. Clown nose, I like that. So I'm gonna, a clown nose, very simply. I'm gonna do a big clown nose. Nice big clown nose. Circle nose, perfect. Here's another thing too, for especially for kids if they get stuck and they're having a hard time. Like I've had students, I can't draw a circle. Use a can. Trace, find something in the house that is the shape you want. Use a ruler. Use anything that has a shape. I'm looking around my studio for something that has a shape. I mean, even use your eraser can have straight lines or kind of a weird shape. All right. So, and now arms. Do I want to have arms? Do I want to have 1 arm, 2 arms, no arms? Let me know what you think. And as I'm waiting for some suggestions, ooh, purple and blue stripes for patterns. Ooh, purple and black plaid patterns. I purposely wore an outfit like this for, ooh, tentacle arms. She knows me well, Caitlin. I love my octopus. And you can actually, oh, this side, I actually have a portrait I did of myself with octopus arms. So patterns, I wore these this outfit on purpose because polka dots are a pattern. My bow tie is plaid. So, all right, we're gonna do tentacle arms, and the first number I saw was 1. So we're gonna do 1 tentacle arm. So I'm gonna have the arm come off the body, and I'm gonna have it go across the body. And this is again why I want to make sure I draw light. So I'm going to erase spots that overlap. And basically overlapping means you can't see what would be behind it. So if I had drawn my body, if I covered it with my arm, you wouldn't see whatever of my body is here. So I'd erase whatever's here. So on mine, you can see I erased the line that was here. And even with my tentacle or my tentacle feet, I erased the line that was here so that it was all one shape. So drawing is basically just combining shapes until you get the desired outcome. All right, so I think that's going to be a good spot for us to finish drawing. And now our next step, I like to do all of my my monsters with a nice black outline. And sorry, these are all in packages, but I sell my stuff, and so they're in packages. But so if you have a yes, maybe one of his arms got chopped off because he's got the vampire fangs. So now, if you have a black marker or a black colored pencil or a black crayon, you can do an outline. I'm going to use, and I had this idea this morning. I'm going to take once I get it outlined, I'm actually going to take a picture of it and I'll add it later with just the black outline, and then it'll be a nice little coloring page too. So the cool thing about going back over it with the black line is if I want to make any additions. So like right now, I'm kind of, you can see here I didn't follow that line perfectly. I can kind of make any last minute additions to my drawing. So I want to make these tentacle eyes look like they more connect rather than just touch. And I tell my students this step too. If you do a really good job of tracing, like obviously I just said if you want to make any last minute additions, but if you do a really good job of tracing over your pencil lines and taking your time on this step, then you have less to do in the next step. So I'm going to keep on tracing. And if you guys like this video, you can share it so that everybody has access to some sort of art. I know I've seen lots of posts of people, a lot of my educator friends posting about how they can help with people's instruction because of their certifications, and being an art teacher and having to have materials, I was kind of like, I don't know how I can help. And then I had a friend that said, why don't you do some live drawings? So I said, all right. So I'm going to keep on outlining. And I'm thinking about doing like maybe every other day a kid's sort of drawing. And then yesterday I did a drawing of, which kids can still watch those, but I did a drawing of my own kind of art. So if you want to take a peek at my page, yesterday I did a drawing of a T-Rex trying to wash his hands. So I'm gonna get my nose. I'm actually gonna add a couple little circles for nostrils. So that was to just, as you're doing your lines, you can see how I changed it at the last second, and that's okay. A very famous artist, Leonardo da Vinci, once said that artwork is never finished, only abandoned. And especially in monster making, one of my rules in my classroom is make mistakes into masterpieces. There is no correct way to draw a monster. So if you make a mistake, sometimes that's supposed to happen. And you can turn that mistake into a really cool piece of your art. All right, so now I'm gonna add, since we said this was a octopus tentacle, I add some tentacle pieces. So now I have my, get a camera. So now I have my monster. So the next step, and this is why I say, if you do this, that's the outline step really well, then the next step is super easy. So you take your eraser, any eraser. If you're using, and I tell my students this too, if you're using a regular pencil eraser, I see all too often kids really grunt their pencil. Let the eraser do the work. Just go nice and soft. It will work just as easy if you go soft, and then you'll have your eraser longer. I don't know how many pencils in my classroom have no erasers because they snap off because kids are trying to use them so hard. So I'm just going to erase all of my pencil lines, because especially if you're using Crayola markers or those are water soluble and they will make pencil lines bleed, and so you'll get all sorts of dirty, muddy colors from the pencil lead mixing with the ink of the marker. All right, so this is when my handy dandy brush comes into play, because now I can see any spots that I might need to erase a little more. And even the teacher sometimes makes mistakes and draws a little too dark, but now I have my monster. And I'm actually going to take a picture. I will post that later so that you can draw and color it in. So now I'm going to start with the color. So I'm going to start with the body, and if we can get some ideas, I'm actually going to go back and add more because I want to be able to add different patterns into my tentacles of my eyes. Name him Octo. I like that. All right, who wants to give me a color to do his body? We're going to do his body, his tentacle, and his feet all one color. We can add a pattern we'll add a pattern too. So if you want to give me a pattern, we'll do, I know I saw somebody that had said some stripes, so I'm going to add some stripes to the tentacles. And I'm doing my patterns with orange. You guys know my favorite colors. So I do my patterns in pencil first, because if you make a mistake, easy to fix if you use your all right, pink. I think pink was the first color I saw, so we're gonna do his body pink. Now let's see. I have a slight obsession with markers. I have probably 200 to 300 different markers. So, and because I'm using these kind of markers, I keep a little scrap piece of paper that I can test my colors out on. And I think this is a perfect color. So as we're coloring, we always want to stay inside the lines. Unless your monster's a scribble monster, in which case have at it. And some coloring rules that I tell my students too. When you are coloring, color in the same direction. It will keep it looking neat, won't look too streaky, and you don't want to have any white paper showing because then it looks unfinished. And the person that did the suggestion for this color, Ms. Zazinski, she has fresh new pink hair. So I think I know why she did that. So as I'm coloring this in, give me some ideas for other patterns. I have stripes in the tentacles, or give me some textures. Is this monster gonna have fur or scales or polka dots? And if I don't choose your idea, then you can use it on your own monster. Or if you're checking out the comments and you see an idea that somebody else has, borrow it. I think one of the best things in my classroom, I have the kids sit at tables because it helps the community of art. Kids can share ideas. And if the kids see something they like, I say, hey, I really like how you did that. Can I try that in mine? It doesn't always come out the same, so it's a way for kids to borrow and help each other learn. And all right, I see a polka dots comment. So we'll put polka dots in this pattern somewhere. And again, whatever material you guys are using, if you're using crayons, I tell my students to push down and make sure, push not so hard that the crayon's gonna break in half, but sometimes with crayons and colored pencils, if we don't push down, the color won't be as dark. And so it looks very muted, which if you want a color like that, if you're using a red colored pencil or a red crayon and you want pink, you obviously have to not push as hard. Or one of my units I was teaching my kids was about color and how to mix colors. If you want pink, you can add red and white. So, all right, I am done with his pink skin. Now, I'm gonna quickly do his stripes. How about some colors for stripes? Who has some ideas for colors for stripes? Because this is going to be one of my patterns, which again, pattern is something that repeats over and over again. So my tentacles for his eyes are going to be a pattern because the color is going to repeat over and over again. I'm going to erase those pencil lines I made. All right. So, and you know what? I'm going to put some polka dots inside one of the stripes. So make it, we can even combine patterns. Because there's not always rules, and the rules are sometimes made to be broken. But don't tell parents, don't tell your kids I said that. Oh, hi, Sydney. Sydney is one of my former students, former high school students. So yellow and orange. We're going to use yellow and orange for, so I got yellow. And let me find an orange. So, and here's a little tip for kiddos. I have my students just to help with the pattern so I don't mess it up. I just put little dots in the spots that I want to color because a little dot is much easier to cover up if I make a mistake with putting the pattern down. And then I can color in my pattern. And Sydney, since you chose this colors for this pattern, I have polka dots. So I'm going to use yellow as my background, or yellow as my polka dot. But what color is going to go in the background of my polka dot? And again, I'm just taking my time, going the same direction, making sure I don't have any white spaces. All right. And I am done with the tentacle of the orange. And one little side, I was talking about this in my video yesterday. One of my favorite things is I love color. Color is one of my favorite things. Orange is my favorite color, but growing up, my favorite thing about school was art class. And I loved the colors in the crayon boxes. One of my jobs that I wanted to be when I grew up. One of them was being a Toys R Us cashier so that I could get discounts on toys. But one of them I also wanted to do was be a namer of colors for crayons. I just love the names of the colors of crayons. And coincidentally, my favorite color name and color crayon was macaroni and cheese. Because it was orange. So kids, as you're watching, just be coloring in your patterns in an area. And I'll start to add, I'm going to add just a little more color to some spots, and then we can start to add some texture, which I actually think I have an idea. We'll add some texture in the tentacles, and we'll add a different texture. So maybe as I'm finishing coloring some of these things, if we can get some ideas for some different textures. And I'm adding some circles into the orange spots because I actually made a mistake. But I'm going to turn that mistake into a masterpiece and just put polka dots in all the areas. And then I'll add, maybe, nobody's gotten to me yet, so I'm going to add some green into my polka dots. Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous, Ashley. Mac and cheese was always my favorite color crayon. I mean, I am a gigantic fan of mac and cheese anyways, but just the vibrancy of the orange was my favorite. That color, and then I always had such an obsession with, I'm not even so much a big fan of the color now, but for some reason I just like the name Periwinkle. Periwinkle. So now I got, this is funny. These kind of look like vegetables now. So it's funny how those things come out. All right, so now let's think of a color for his clown nose. Let's think of a color for the clown nose. And I love that I have some of my coworkers watching too. Hi, Miller. Hi, Ski. I had to go get my coffee. All right, white and red from my boy Mason. All right, Let's actually do a stripe. I like that idea. More pattern. More pattern. So I'm going to, just to make sure, because I'm going to add I was literally just thinking too, my dogs have been uncharacteristically quiet during this whole video. And I hear one of them downstairs growling. So, got my white and red nose. I feel like I'm channeling my inner Mrs. Kasha Davis. If you guys saw my post, my friend Mrs. Kasha Davis read at 10 o'clock it's her book. She wrote a story called Little Eddie P You're a Star, and then the second book was Little Eddie P, Your Gift. Do I have them? Your Gift is Your Smile. She was reading these books, which I illustrated. Periwinkle and green. We'll put those colors in somewhere. I actually maybe we'll do that on the inside of the tentacle, or we can put it on the lips. We're gonna have all sorts of crazy colors of your monster, which that's perfect. Again, there's no rules for what a monster looks like, and not all monsters are scary. Like I did a whole series of alliteration monsters. Monsters that, do I have one of them here? I don't. I had like Tammy the Tarantula likes to do takeout on Taco Tuesday. So I drew a female tarantula, and she had a bag of tacos, and of course she had guacamole. All right, so there's my white and red nose. And let's do green lips. Let's do green lips. We'll use this green. That doesn't, it's kind of dead. All right. Grass green. So we got green lips. And I said that I love colors, so the more colors, the better. Kids, if you want to have yours be all one color, just a couple colors, that's okay. This is your drawing. All right, so we got green, and then you know what? We're gonna do the periwinkle on the inside. Oh, and here come the troops. We'll take a quick break so you guys can see. Lolly, come here. Come here. Here's one of my little minions. Say hi, Lolly. All right, back to the drawing. All right, so I got my periwinkle, got my green. I'm gonna do some gray for his mouth, inside of his mouth. And now we're gonna do the eyes. So maybe, do we want all the same color eyes? Do you want them to have different color eyes? Let me know, let me know. All right. So I'm gonna add the pupils of his eyes, or her eyes, or their eyes, whatever this monster might be. Anybody on colors? Bob Ross. I'm missing the hair though. Maybe the new Bob Ross can have violet gray hair. So while we're waiting for some ideas for eye color, I'm just going to show you how you can make texture. So on the, I'm going to get them closer so you guys can see. So I can add texture just with lines. So this would be like little, almost like, oh, and you can't see because my shadow in my hand. But just lines can make texture. He wants red eyes. Alexis, you're this devilish little monster, him. And again, as you're thinking of different textures to add, texture, how something feels or it looks like it feels. We can make something look like it feels rough or bumpy or sharp or soft and fluffy. So I'll add, and so red. We're gonna go carmine red. Ooh, he looks creepy. Fluffy body. Okay. So, easiest way for textures using I'm going to use texture with my pen, but you can use marker. You can use, if you're using crayon, you can use colored pencil. You can use colored pencil on top of marker, whatever material you have. I'm going to use a different size. I have colored pens too. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I love when happy accidents happen. Happy accidents. That's Bob Ross for you, Gina. So I want fluffy, so I'm just going to start to add tiny little lines. And it's going to make it look like fur. You can see, it just looks like fur. And we can think of some other textures. Maybe in the nose, we can do like a bumpy pattern or send some other ideas. And if you're watching, I'm not sure how many people are watching, but if you have some ideas for other things, because I'll be 100% honest, I've already cleaned my house. I did one of my own drawings yesterday. I'll probably do one of these videos maybe every other day. So if there's something else, I obviously love my monsters, and you can see my other monsters. I showed you a few, but I have tons of them. If you want to learn to draw something, or just more of an open-ended kind of thing like this, where I draw something, but you can draw whatever your imagination takes you. So I just keep making all sorts of lines, and you can see it starting to get fluffy. Look like he's fur. And sometimes texture is a pattern, because this obviously line is repeating over and over again. So texture is sometimes the pattern. A Disney-inspired drawing. But what character? Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection complete? I'll save the musical stuff for somebody else. See, my favorite Disney movie, people don't even think is a Disney movie, is Nightmare Before Christmas, which I'm trying to think. You can't see in the background. You can see I have A Nightmare Before Christmas snow globe, and I have another one over there. I have 2 or 3 over there. I have tons of Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. That's my absolute favorite Disney movie. But my other favorites are Aladdin or the old school ones. So I am furring him up. He's going to be so furry and fluffy. And this step takes some time, but and there's the dogs barking. And maybe the fur stops at his feet. Hi, Glenda. Oh my gosh. Ooh, Caitlin too. I like that idea. A drawing inspired by your favorite toy, especially for kiddos. What's your favorite toy? I like that idea. That might be a winner too. And maybe your favorite toy is a Disney toy, so we can combine them. I participate in a drawing challenge where a super famous artist on Instagram, on the social webs, he posts words, and then the general social media public has to interpret that word and draw something based on that word, however you interpret it. And I like to, a lot of times, find a different way to approach it. So there's my fur. So there's my fur. So maybe now I'll do some rough texture. Like bumps for the nose. And then I think we are nearing completion. I will probably, once I leave you, because we're almost at an hour, and I know you guys have other important things to learn, which I hope you all are doing your homework and learning while we're being safe inside. But I'll probably go back and add some shading and stuff. But maybe just 2 more textures. Whatever could I do? I'm going to add some lines in the lips. And add some more of this. All right. Anybody have any last ideas for textures? Ooh, Star Wars. That could be a toy too. That might be the next drawing. Is draw your favorite toy. I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. And maybe that can be an adult drawing that I do or a kid drawing. So, but there's your monster. So let's check off our list of things that we have. Do we have texture? Yes, because we have our body of our monster looks like it's furry and fluffy, and the nose looks like it's bumpy. And then do we have pattern? Something that repeats over and over again. Yeah, we got polka dots, we got stripes. Our pattern can be our texture. And even the fact that we have I. Those are patterns too. So there's your monster. If you like this video, share it, comment. If you want me to do another one, I'll have plenty of time. Because I think we're out for a hot minute. So let me know in the comments, share away, and yeah, I think I'll see you guys in a couple days, maybe a day or 2. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.